Hey guys, it's Jamieson Beatz from Elevate Studios and welcome to episode 2 of my 3-part series on how to get great sounding live drums in FL Studios. In this episode, we're going to be looking at setting up your pattern for your drums so that you can mimic real drums and make it sound live. Alright, so let's get into it. I'm going to be doing it in piano roll. I'm going to be actually penning down the MIDI scores. But if you have a MIDI keyboard or if you have a drum pad, use that instead. The reason I suggest you use that instead is you get those variations in velocity, you get those variations in timing. Everything is not 100% and everything doesn't sound the same. And that gives you a more human feel, a more live feel, which will contribute to the sound of your drum. So I'm going to pen it in because I want to show that it can be done using just MIDI score. Alright, it's a little bit more work, but it can be done. I'm going to be making bouillon at 157, let's say. And I know how bouillon sounds, so I'm going to pen in some. Alright, so we have bouillon. I'm going to copy this across so that I can show you something that adds groove to your beat. So if you have, that's okay, but it sounds pretty straight and it sounds pretty dry. So one way you can add some groove to it is by adding extra notes that you can change the velocity of. So I'm going to put them. Alright, so that adds a little bit, but it still sounds like a computer. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the velocity of some things. So first of all, my kick isn't hitting hard enough. For bouillon, you want your kick hitting hard. If you're a bouillon drummer, you want to drum with energy because bouillon is about energy. Bouillon is about life. Bouillon is not a timid genre. Bouillon is something that smacks you in the face. Alright? My hi-hats can stay the same, but my toms, I want them louder. Alright, so far all I've done is just bring everything up, but you would notice that for the snare I have some hits that are lower. The 2 extra hits that I added, I actually leave them lower and listen to how it sounds. That sounds pretty good so far, but we want some notes to be a little off timing to give it the feel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select some that I want to pull back. For instance, I feel like I want to pull back those 2. Alright, make sure that your snap is off or you hold down the Alt button while you're trying to move them. Otherwise they will move by whatever interval your snap is set to. So if you hold down the Alt button, they move. Okay, now sometimes you want things that are together to be a little off each other. So I'm going to pull my hats a little forward, pull my snare a little back, because the drummer isn't perfect, right? So he's going to be hitting things slightly differently. So you hear what that sounds like? Instead of just one straight hit, you get sort of a flam. And that is something that happens all the time while people are drumming. So you want that. So you can just move a few, it doesn't really matter. And you don't move them so much. Alright, so you just keep playing in that until you get something that you really like, okay? And it's worth the effort. The fine-tuning really gives you the over-the-top sound. So if I were you, I would spend that extra time to get the fine-tuning and to get the sound to sound. All of those little variations, you can add all of them, but what you should do is spread them out. That also adds to the liveness because drummers tend to be very dynamic. So if I take this pattern and I place it here, then I can make this one unique. right? So I have the variations happening not as frequent. If they're so frequent, then people get the sense that, oh, it's just a computer doing that because it's doing the same thing over and over again. So make your variations and don't put them too frequent and too close to each other. Okay, so that's it for this video. Before I go, same advice as last time. Please try to learn drummers. Try to learn what drummers do, even the mannerisms of drummers and the mechanics of it. Because a drummer will hit differently with his left and his right hand. And that is something that you would notice I was mimicking by using velocity. So if I'm going to hit with my left hand and then my right hand, one after each other, then they will sound different. And the difference is usually based on where we hit in the snare and that kind of thing. But you can mimic it using just velocity. Another thing is when drummers have to hit more than once, some of those hits will suffer in terms of strength. They will not hit all of them the same. So we can mimic that with velocity the same way. So what I'm trying to say is there are many things that you can mimic, but you have to know them so that you can mimic them. And if you can mimic them, you're going to get a good sound. The next thing is learn little feels, learn little rolls, learn those kinds of things. You can just listen to some music that sounds good in the genre that you're doing and then apply that to your music. You don't have to copy, but I mean, rules are not, nobody owns rules. So if you hear a rule you like, you can incorporate it. Make sure it fits the music that you're working with. But if you hear something you like from somewhere, try to incorporate it. Another thing is don't put too much. When people play at concerts and stuff like that, they tend to do a lot more than in a studio session. So a drummer playing in a studio session most of the time is a lot more reserved than one playing at a concert or a live venue. So try and take that into consideration. If you want a live concert sound, then you might want to do more with the drummer. If you want a studio session type sound, then you're going to keep it reserved. But again, it depends on your song and it has to do with what you're doing with your music. Okay, how you want your music to sound. At the end of the day, as long as it sounds great, do it. Okay guys, so that's it for episode 2. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Episode 3 is next. In episode 3 we're going to be looking at tracking out the drums, simulating overhead mics and simulating the drum room. So see you there.